first immediate step is for a team of forensic accountants, not ordinary accountants, forensic accountants, and sovereign debt restructuring experts. I am astonished that the government has left it so late to do this, because without this basic information, policy is without direction, and in fact the government seems to have been steering all over the road, lacking this basic information. The second immediate step is to invite the governor of the central bank to seek employment. I think that everyone who has looked at Iceland from the outside, including Willem Buiter, who will be speaking here next week, and including Richard Portes, who was rather critical of my article in the Financial Times, but everybody is astonished that the governor of the central bank is still in place. If he could be found an ambassadorship to Vanuatu, which is a low atoll in the middle of the Pacific, vulnerable to... This would be a sure sign to the outside world, outside financial markets, that Iceland was serious in dealing with its difficulties. The third immediate step is simply for the Prime Minister to apologize to the nation. Yes. Let me say something. I'm running out of time. I want to say something about almost immediate steps. As I said, not just in Iceland, but in the world at large, a great surge of unemployment, or something like unemployment, is coming. I think that it's really important for the Icelandic government to set up teams of people to study what is being done in other comparable countries in order to protect employment and minimize unemployment. Possible measures include such things as subsidize employers to offer apprenticeships to school leavers, or to subsidize employers to place employees on short-time working instead of firing them, by paying the employees their missing days. Or thirdly, provide public works programs doing real work for the minimum wage, from social work through to construction. A number of things can be done. It is really urgent that, in particular, the young people do not find themselves having to depend on unemployment benefit. Secondly, urgent steps have to be taken to protect pensions. There's going to be huge anger, I mean even greater anger directed at the government if pensions start to collapse and retirees find that their expected income is way, way below what they were expecting it to be. I mean, their actual income is way below what they're expecting it to be. Obviously, all this pain has to be shared, but there is a danger that people on pensions will take much more than proportional pain. Thirdly, financial regulation restructuring. Clearly, there's going to be a move around the world towards treating finance more like alcohol, or drugs, or explosives, or weapons of mass destruction, or gambling. All of these are activities where the unrestricted distribution of explosives and weapons of mass destruction and gambling and the like create large external costs for the society, so that the market for the product is necessarily restricted. Finance will, or some kinds of finance, will come to be seen in the same light. I think also governments generally will try and create banking systems which give more weight to stability and prudence and less weight to innovation, to financial innovation. We may see the emergence of what you could call mixed banking systems, with some component of public banks that operate more like utilities, like electricity utilities, together with private banks, private profit-seeking banks. And in Iceland specifically, obviously the mandate and the competence of the central bank and the Financial Services Authority need to be subject to considerable improvement, let us say. Civil service reform. I, as an outsider, have been amazed that Iceland has nothing like a civil service commission or commissioner. That is somebody or some group of people who scrutinize the recruitment of people to the civil service and the promotion of people to high position within it, to permanent secretaryships, for example. I am amazed that these recruitment and promotion decisions are made without reference to a third party, an external body, which scrutinizes the decisions in terms of criteria of merit, of qualifications. One place Iceland might look to get ideas about how to design a really effective civil service is Singapore. Just to give an example, the top-level salaries of civil servants in Singapore are set by a formula which averages the top 10 or so salaries of private people working in the private sector in the same broad domain, so that the top legal people in the government of Singapore have salaries that are set in relation to the top salaries of lawyers in the private sector in Singapore. This is a way of ensuring that it is a really attractive prospect to go into the civil service. But on the other hand, Singapore comes down like a ton of bricks on anybody who is found to be corrupt, who is found to be nepotistic, appointing their relatives to positions, appointing their friends to positions. The moment any evidence of these behaviors comes out, these civil servants are fired. I want to finish now on the question of Eurozone entry. My first point is that Iceland clearly has to give up the idea of making itself a center for international banks. There are simply too many alternative places which, going forward, do not have the toxic reputation that Iceland now has as a center of international banking. So the country has to urgently develop other sources of economic activity. Nevertheless, obviously, a normal banking system has to be established, and for this purpose, there are some big advantages of joining the Eurozone.